Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran in Surah Abasa, فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الصَّاخَّةُ يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ شَأْنٌ يُغْنِيهِ. The meaning of this is when there comes the sakha, when there comes the time of as-sakha. As-sakha, as explained by the Mufassirin, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said that the meaning of sakha, it's one of the names of the Day of Judgment. It's one of the names of the Day of Judgment. Or the other Mufassirin, they said that it is referring to the sound, the heavy sound that comes as the sound of a thunder, and the sound is so loud that it almost makes a person go deaf. So it is a very big sound. This is the meaning of as-sakha. After that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ. On that day, i.e. the Day of Judgment, what would happen is a man would flee from his brother. A man would flee from his brother. وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ, and from his mother and his father. وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ, and from his wife and his children. لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ شَأْنٌ يُغْنِيهِ. Meaning that every man will have enough for him to be careless about others. Every person on that day, when the Day of Judgment would come, will have enough of problems, enough of tensions, enough of things to worry about himself, so that they become careless about others, even if those others are from the nearest of their kin. Right? This is the meaning of the verses, the final verses, the concluding verses of Surah Abasa. This is the meaning of the concluding verses of Surah Abasa. We were discussing about Murakkab Idafi. We were discussing about Murakkab Idafi and specially using dhama'ir, meaning pronouns and attached pronouns, right? We were discussing using pronouns in the place of mudafun ilay, right? In the example of Zaid's book, right, which is Kitabu Zaidin, we saw that the main entity over here is the mudaf, which is Kitabu, right? And then since it belongs to Zaid, the mudafun ilayh is Zaidin. Now when we replace the mudafun ilayh with a pronoun, or specifically an attached pronoun, so it becomes kitabuhu, right? So this was the topic that we were discussing, using attached pronouns in the place of mudafun ilayh, So the point where we left in the last class was regarding the attached pronoun. This is the default way how the attached pronoun who would look like, right? The attached pronoun who. So we left off with the understanding that in the Quran, if you look at the scripts, did you get a chance to look into the scripts? No? Okay, no problem. So in different scripts, it's written differently, but the script that generally we read, which is the Indo-Pak script, we are talking about that script, and it would be a good exercise that you look the concluding verses of Surat Abasa in both the scripts. In both the scripts, the Indo-Pak script versus the Uthmani script. It's called the Uthmani script. So if you look at the two scripts and you try to look for the attached who, if you try to look for the attached who, you will understand the difference. You will understand the difference. So right now we are discussing about the Indo-Pak script. So we said that this who has four different, it can come as four different types, or it has four different forms. This attached who over here, it can appear in four different forms in the Indo-Pak script. So the attached who can appear in four different forms, the first of which is it can appear in the form in which the dhamma is inverted. Or it can appear in a form in which there is a standing kasra. Or it can appear in the form where it's a regular dhamma. Or the last form is a regular kasra, right? So there are four different forms, and it's the same attached who that can appear in the Quran. And in order to understand this better, as I said, look at the concluding verses of Surat Abasa in both the scripts and compare them as to how it looks. So now the question is, when does the form of the dhamma or the kasra, like what are the different scenarios? What are the different scenarios in which the attached who takes these four different forms? So it's not very difficult to understand that. The rules are pretty simple. So for the first form, for the first type of attached who in which the dhamma is inverted, it comes when the letter before who is either a dhamma or it is a fatha, right? So the result would be that the dhamma is inverted, right? So what is the case in which you see this in the Indo-Pak script such that it is an inverted dhamma? So there are two scenarios. It could be if the letter before who has a dhamma on it, or it has a fatha on it. So the result would be a dhamma which is inverted. And what is the difference between an inverted dhamma and a regular dhamma? It is the difference in tajweed, the way how you read it, right? So let's look at some examples. So you have the word kitabu, right? Kitabun originally, but when you use it in the place of mudaf, it is kitabu, right? So if you are using a attached pronoun, attached who, the word becomes kitabu hu with an inverted dhamma. So the way how you read it is kitabu hu, a little bit of stretch. Kitabu hu, right? Little bit of stretch. Similarly, if this goes into nasab for some reason and it becomes kitaba, so the who would also be an inverted dhamma, right? It would be an inverted dhamma. So the way how you read it is kitabahu, little bit of stretch in tajweed. So this was for the first scenario, The second scenario, the rule is pretty simple. It is when the letter preceding the attached hu has a kasra on it, has a kasra. So the letter preceding attached hu, whenever it has a kasra on it, it becomes a standing kasra. So implementing this in our example of kitabun, it would be kitabihi, right? Kitabihi. Kitabihi. For some reason, if the mudaf goes into nasab, it would be kitabahu, and if it goes into jar, because remember we are talking about the mudaf here, right? So the mudaf can either be rafa, nasab or jar, right? Depending on the usage. But the mudafun ilay, it's always in jar. The mudafun ilay is always in jar. So it could be kitabuhu, kitabahu or kitabihi, right? Coming to the third scenario, in which the attached hu has a regular dhamma on it, a regular dhamma. So the scenario is such that the letter preceding hu should, the letter preceding attached hu should have a sukun on it, and it can be any letter except for ya. It can be any letter except for ya. Any letter except ya, right? And we'll look into the example in a little bit after taking the last scenario. Now the last scenario would be pretty much understood, right? Is the last scenario, which is that the attached hu has a regular kasra on it whenever the letter preceding ha is ya, is a ya with a sukun on it, right? So the difference between the third and the fourth scenario is that in the third scenario, the letter preceding ha could be any letter except for ya, and it should have a sukun on it. And the last scenario is it's a ya sakin, basically the easiest way. The letter preceding ha is a ya with a sukun on it. So let's look at some examples. For this one, when we take a name of a sahabi, we say radiyallahu anhu, right? Radiyallahu anhu. Radiyallahu anhu, right? So Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, Umar radiyallahu anhu. So the word anhu, the word anhu has an attached hu, in the example of radiyallahu anhu, you can see that the attached hu has a noon sakin before it, and was that whenever the letter preceding attached hu has any letter except for ya, and it has a sakin on it, which is over here, it means that the symbol is a regular dhamma, regular dhamma, right? One more example. In the case of in the Quran, in Suratul Baqarah, in the introductory verses of Suratul Baqarah, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. So if you open and look into the Quran, you would see that the the symbol on the symbol on the letter ha is a regular kasra. The symbol on the letter ha is a regular kasra, right? So one more example for the third category. One more example for the third category. If I want to say his his two books. In this case, we are saying his book, right? His books. If I want to say his two books, so the mudaf over here is two books, right? It's two books. So the kitabu becomes kitaba, right? Because the original word is kitabani and the noon goes away. So it becomes kitaba, kitaba, right? And then the word for his would be aha with a regular dhamma. So you can see that over here it's a noon sakin and over here it is an alif. Over here it is an alif. So both of them have a dhamma, which is a regular dhamma, not an inverted one. And in the last scenario or the last case, we have a ha with a regular kasra. So rules, these are the four rules for the attached pronoun who. The original or the default way that it would look is ha with a dhamma on it, but it can come in four different scenarios. Another concept that we will learn today, these are five different asma, and the meaning, some of the asma that are here, we already know the meaning. For example, abun means father, akhun means brother, and famun means mouth. Hamun is used for father-in-law, So abun, father, akhun, brother, hamun, father-in-law, famun, mouth. Zu is used with some word. Zu is not used by itself. It is used in the place of mudaf. And like in the Quran, we have Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, right? So the possessor of Jalal wal Ikram. Like Zu is used in the meaning of the one who possesses something. The one who possesses something. So Dhul Arushil Azim. Dhul Arushil Kareem. Dhul Arushil Azim. Dhu is used in the place of mudaf with other words to give the meaning of possessing something, right? So Dhul Jalali wal Ikram or Dhul Arushil Azim. But the other asma that are here, they may be used individually and they may also be used in the place of mudaf. They may also be used in the place of mudaf. So there are some rules when they come in the place of mudaf. When they come in the place of mudaf. So there can be raf', nasb or jar, right? There can be raf', nasb or jar. So when abun is used in the place of mudaf, remember that these rules are only when they are used in the place of mudaf. If they are used individually, then they appear in their normal form. But when they are used in the place of mudaf, this is how they would look. So abun, when used in the place of mudaf, will be abu. Will be abu. And the nasab form would be, can you guess? Aba. Aba. and the jar form would be abi, right? So abun is the actual word, abu, aba, abi. What about akhun? Akhu, akha, akhi, right? Akhu, akha, akhi. What about hamun, hamu, hama, hami? What about famun, famu, fama, fami? What about dhu, dhu, dha, zi, right? These are called as Asma'ul Khamsa. These are called as Asma'ul Khamsa in Arabic. So, whenever we come across this word, we should remember that Asma'ul Khamsa are those five asma, those five nouns or five asma, which change their appearance, when used in the place of mudaf in rafa, nasb and jar, right? In rafa, nasb and jar. So as I said many times that this is only the case when they are used in the place of mudaf. What if they are used individually? If they are used individually, it would be abun, aban, abin, right? Akhun, akhan, akhin. They would have their original form. But when used in the place of mudaf, they would change their appearance. If I want to say Zaid's brother, if I want to say Zaid's brother, how would I say that? Akhu Zaidin. Akhu Zaidin, right? If I want to say Zaid's brother, it would be Akhu Zaidin. If I want to say his brother, if I want to say his brother, instead of the word Zaid, I'm replacing it with his, right? Who? So, how would that be? Akhu, who? Now, which who would I use here? Regular Dhamma, right? And the reason for that is the letter before ha is a sakin, right? So it would be a dhamma, regular dhamma. Now this word akhuhu is in rafa, If I want to use the nasab version, it would be akhahu, right? Akhuhu, akhahu, and akhihi, right? So this is the rafa version. When I want to use the nasab version, it would be akhuhu, akhahu, and then the jar akhihi, akhihi, akhuhu, akhahu, akhihi, right? Akhuhu, akhahu, akhihi. The thing is that when we use the word akhun in the place of mudaf, we will use this table right here, right? So if you see, just ignore the ha, Ignore the ha. We would use akhu, akha, and akhi, right? Now the ha that comes at the end, it follows those rules that we studied, right? So what are the rules? The rules are the letter before ha makes it a difference, gives it the meaning. Sorry, gives it the symbol. The letter before ha gives it the symbol which it needs. So the letter before ha over here is a waw sakin. That's why it has a regular dhamma. The letter before ha is an alif, right? Right? So because of that, ha, the symbol on ha is a regular dhamma. Over here, the before the letter before ha is a ya sakin. So because of that, the symbol is a regular kasra symbol. Does that answer the question? Okay. If I want to say Zaid's mother, if I want to say Zaid's mother, what would be the word for that? What's the original word for mother? Ummun, right? Ummun. Now, if I use it in the place of mudaf, it would be ummu. Ummu. Ummu Zaidin. If I want to say his mother, it would be ummuhu. Which who? Is it the inverted dhamma or the regular dhamma? Inverted. The reason for that is the letter before ha is a dhamma, right? So ummuhu. Ummuhu over here is in Rafa. If I want to use the Nasab and Jar version, it would be Ummahu. Ummahu, right? And again, it would be an inverted Dhamma, right? If I want to use it in Jar, if I want to use the Jar version, it would be Ummi, Ummihi, right? Ummihi. So Ummuhu, Ummahu, Ummihi, right? Ummihi. And the question is, why do we have a he over here? Is because of the rules that we studied earlier, right? What were the rules? The rules were that the symbol on ha, it is because of the letter before ha. So it's ummuhu, ummahu, and ummihi, ummihi. If I want to say Zed's wife, Zed's wife, and the word that we will use over here is sahibatun, sahibatun. So in Arabic, the word for companion is sahibun, sahibun, right? So the actual word is sahibun, but if it is a female companion, sahibatun, sahibatun, right? There could be other words used in for wife, for the word wife in Arabic. There are other words, but because we are trying to understand the ayah of the concluding ayat of Surat Abasa, we will use this word. So sahibun, and the female is sahibatun, right? Sahibatun, sahibatun. Now if I want to say Zaid's wife, what would we do? Sahibatu Zaidin. Sahibatu Zaidin. And if I want to say his wife instead of Zaid, it would be Sahibatu, the inverted Dhamma. Sahibatuhu. صاحبته. And this صاحبته is in rafa. Rafa. If I want to use it in nasab, صاحبته صاحبته. صاحبته صاحبته. And in jar صاحبته. صاحبته, right? If I want to say Zaid's sons, Zaid's sons, the word is Banun. When you use it in the place of mudaf, the noon goes away, so it becomes Banuhu. Banuhu. Banuhu with a regular dhamma, and the reason for that is the noon sakin over here. So because of the noon sakin, it's a regular dhamma. When you use it in nasab, it would be una and ina, right? So banu and bani, it would be bani, so it would be banihi. It would be a regular kasra, banihi. And same for jar, banihi, right? So banuhu, banihi, banihi. So why did we write all these forms? Is to understand the ayah that we recited. Is يوم يفر المرء من أخيه من أخيه. So the word أخيه is over here, right? His brother, his brother. يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأمه وأبيه وأمه وأبيه. So if you use this in the place of mudaf, it becomes أبيه, right? So يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته صاحبته وبنيه وصاحبته وبنيه. So all the different scenarios that we have for the attached who have come over here, right? Have come over here. يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه, right? So the word imru'un, we have the word imru'un, which means a man, which means a man. There is one special thing about this word, about this ism. It is when you write the nasab and jar. So let's try to write the nasab and jar. So usually how do we write it? Imru'un, imru'an, right? Imru'an and imru'in, imru'in, right? Imru'un, imru'an and imru'in. This is the usual method. This is the usual method. But the special thing about this ism is that normally only the changes are only on the last letter, on the last letter. But in this case, even the second last letter changes. Even the second last letter changes. So it becomes imru'un, imra'an and imri'in, imri'in. There is one more thing. If you remember when we studied about the nasab form, right? So there is an alif at the end in the nasab version, right? So there was one case, there were only two cases. There were only two cases in which the alif does not come. One case was if it is a ta marbuta, ta marbuta, alif does not come, and the other case was if it ends with alif and hamza, like sama'un, sama'an, right? Alif and hamza. Over here there is hamza but there is no alif. So if there was an alif over here, this alif wouldn't come. But because there is no alif over here, it's just hamza, so we have an alif at the end. So imru'un, imra'an, and imri'in, right? So this is the speciality of this ism. This is the speciality of this ism. And one more thing is that the alif that you see over here, the alif that you see over here, it is hamzatul wasl. It is hamzatul wasl. It means that when you write it, you write the alif, but if there is a letter before alif, you do not read the alif, right? Remember the hamzatul wasl. So if I want to say every man, what would be the word? Kullu, right? Kullu. So if I want to say every man, I would use kullu in the place of mudaf, and because of that, imru'un would go into jar. So it would be imri'in, right? And this alif over here is hamzatul wasl. So you won't read the alif, right? So it would be kullum ri'in. So يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ, right? So it is used in jar. So instead of kullu, it would be kulli. So likulli imri'in, which means every man, right? Now if you look into the script or the text, you would see that this is written like this. This is written like this. So the thing with hamza is that hamza cannot stand by itself. It needs a chair. So the chair is either alif, or it is waw, or it is ya. So in this case it is ya. So it would be like this. And then the kasra, in depending on the script, some scripts put the hamza down and the kasra here, or it's other ways, but you can compare different scripts and try to understand. The thing to note over here, an important thing, is that hamza always needs a chair, and over here it uses ya as a chair, so it sits on this chair. So that's why you see in this in the script. But li kullim ri'in, which means every man. So an good exercise is to compare different scripts for ayahs 34 through 37 of Surat Abasa. So you will get a good understanding of what we dealt today. So the chair, one more thing is, as we said that ya needs a chair, hamza needs a chair, right? Hamza cannot stand by itself, so hamza needs a chair, and this chair, it depends on the symbol before hamza. The chair of hamza depends on the symbol before hamza. So over here, since it is a kasra, and we know that ya and kasra are friends, right? So alif and fatha, they are friends, and waw and dhamma are friends, and ya and kasra are friends, right? So because of that, because of the kasra, it took this chair of ya. took this chair off? Yeah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.